literally
Cool.
7 to 10 minutes away from you.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, I've told all you guys that, I think.
Never told me.
Oh, yes, I told you at your house, or I told you when you were at mine.
You know, when you were half naked, I couldn't hear anything.
What kind of committee are you guys on?
Now wait, make it
Well,
what?
it's because
Oh, you want to hear this?
I only run around
No,
with a shirt.
Oh, are we live now?
Whatever you like.
Thank you, Richard. I'm gonna hang up.
Okay, that's nice.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, let me make sure he knows. Don't know what that would be.
Okay, Joe Fisher's on.
So, okay.
Good.
Is anything gonna change here or what?
Oh, we got Quentin on there.
Oh, what do you know?
Yeah, and Julie Peterson. Welcome, everybody.
Julie's still on vacation till tomorrow. She's not supposed to be here.
Wow. Okay,
What an overachiever.
yeah.
Is this what we're gonna be looking at, or are we ready? Are we live?
For now. Yeah, we can call the meeting to order whenever you like.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's call the meeting, and let's get the Pledge of Allegiance out of the
All
way. Clay?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We just said it all.
Sure. Are there hidden verses we didn't know about?
Okay, so roll call. How about going, starting with Tony? Why don't you just say your name and
Tony Roos here.
Corey Asbell here.
Roger Coleman here.
Bob Travers.
Jason Fields, Board Liaison.
I'm Clay Downing, staff.
Okay.
Did we have anyone?
Online.
Oh, sorry.
Can we not hear the people that are online? Somebody's
looks like-
circling. Okay, Joe Fisher is on.
And so Joe Fisher, we can go ahead and make him a panelist, Richard, if you would like. Or if you're able, please. Because he's one of our board members, or CAC members.
Yeah.
And can we hear Richard at all?
I don't know right now, but I can
There
see
you
Joe,
go.
so
There
that
you
seems
go.
promising.
And do we know if Tom is going to be with us? I guess not. I haven't heard anything from Tom lately. All right. So I think that is it.
Okay. Quorum present.
All right. So just,
Somebody take minutes? Who's taking minutes?
please, yes, would you be so
No,
kind?
not me, I was asking. You need to sign somebody take minutes.
I got it.
Somebody, thank you. All right. Well, we want to welcome Corey. He's the new member, committee member. And Corey, you want to say a few things about yourself? And
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yes, Corey with the C. I saw a few iterations of my name. Usually it's the last name they get wrong, not the first name. That's okay. Anyways, I've been here almost 3 years now. I'm a professor at Fox. I'm an annual member at the golf course, and just glad to have the opportunity, so thank you.
you bet. Thank you for being part of it. And then we have one board liaison, and that is Jason. Thank you, Jason, for participating in this.
Oh, honored to be here.
And then, of course, Corey, our superintendent, is
Clay.
here.
Clay.
Clay, did I say Corey?
It's all right. It's close. It's not the first time I've been called Corey, and usually there are no Corys present, so this one makes more sense.
I was introduced to you as Corey, and I never got rid of it. You'll always be Corey to me. Anyway, Clay. Down. All right. And no staff members except for Clay. Unless, did you say Julie? You saw Julie, Julie?
You know, I don't see the list anymore.
Okay. All right, so June 9th, June 9th, we had minutes from June 9th. Everybody has, I believe, a copy of them. If not, I have a few more. But we always have to approve these minutes, so.
I move we approve the minutes from the June 9th meeting.
I second. Any discussions about it? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, okay. Joe, aye? Of course. Okay. All right. So, action items, committee report. Any new applicants do you know of?
So, not that I'm aware of. Kat is currently out of the office, has been for a week, and is due back in another week. But she did not share any with me, so I don't believe we've received any.
All right. That'll be that. Then, so I want to point out, I think this would be an appropriate time to do it. I made the decision to step down from being the co-chair, the main co-chair of this committee, because I could have only gotten it to this point. And from this point on, we have to have some more knowledgeable individuals. So, that's the legal issue, the legal part of this. I would assume that I'm stepping down. I'm not going to remove myself from the committee unless you guys say no, we don't want you anymore. But I want to nominate Tony Roos for one of the co-chairs, if he would be so kind as to take it on.
Sure.
Okay? And I don't know if we need to make a motion, but I would assume we do.
I would suggest making a motion. I mean, you guys have agendized it properly, so if you wanted to make him co-chair, that's fine. And welcome to discuss it. One of the things, because it was brought up to be all mentioned, there was some concerns about potential or perceived conflict of interest because of the firm that Tony works for, and his firm was one of the respondents that bid on the golf course clubhouse feasibility study, but the disclosure was included. I've spoken with Tony, I've spoken with the other committee members that have asked me questions about it. I don't see a problem with Tony being chair any more than I see him being a problem with him being a member of this committee, regardless of how it turns out. That's in part because this committee and Tony are not involved in the selection of the consultant for the RFP, so I think that it's fine. But talking about it out in the open is a good thing for making sure people know we gave it some thought and there's no actual conflict of interest.
Would you concur? All right.
God, is that you?
Richard, that was quite loud. I don't know if you could tell.
Scary.
Yeah, thanks. That was loud
Yeah.
too.
Wow. All right.
It looks like it was easier in virtual world because I didn't see Joe jump.
So I want to make a motion to have Tony Roos be part of the co-chair.
I have a question. Is it co-chair, or would he be the chair? And then there would be a co-chair also?
Would you like to have that? Because I've always said you and I are equal.
I always assumed you were the chair and I was the co-chair.
No, co-chair means it's like both of you would be co-chairs.
Okay.
So you would share officer duties, whatever those would be. How between the two of you, they can just get done however you would like.
Yeah.
It just means there's two of you,
Okay.
and you have equal authority
Okay.
if there's a co-chair.
Yeah, that's how I thought it was going to be, and that's
Okay,
the way it's
good.
been working for a year, so we should have talked about it. But anyway, all right, so co-chair is okay with both of you guys? That's
Sure.
it's entirely up to you now, because I've stepped down, and
Sure.
guess what? You are now
He's a co-chair.
Coach.
Yeah, you guys can pass the gavel back and forth.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know, whoever wants it, I don't care.
Did I hear, sorry, did we do a second and a vote?
We need a vote.
And we need a vote.
Okay.
And can you just raise your hand, because for some reason or your finger, if you're for this, Joe? Okay. We won't ask for any volume here because it's not good.
Yeah. Richard, I don't know. Richard, you and I can test the volume in the room later, but it is damaging. So,
Yeah.
okay. Did I hear a second from someone for the purpose of the minutes?
I'll second. Can I?
You're already there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all in favor of Tony Roos being co-chair, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
That's unanimous.
Unanimous. Now, we can move on.
Phase 2. Clay, do you want to give us an update on the RFP process?
Yeah,
And
I-
how many were received? and-
Sure. So I've been telling a few folks that I've been speaking to kind of just ahead of the meeting, but we received, so the RFP submission date closed last Monday. And so at the submission deadline, we received 5 respondents. And I was very pleased with those submittals. All 5 of those met the minimum qualifications.
Monday or Tuesday?
Closed Tuesday. Thank you for thank you for getting that right. We had initially published for Monday, then we realized, sure enough, that's a holiday. We went ahead and had it close on Tuesday, which is going to be better for everybody. And we were very pleased with the 5 submittals that we received from those firms. The review committee for that is myself and Casey Crichton and Kellen Saskin. And so we've got, between the 3 of us, we're just reviewing all of those. And our initial scores and the scoring rubric that was used in the RFP that was published in that. So we completed those with those 5 respondents. And this week we're doing final interviews. We already had one of those today, and the only other one that we're currently planning on doing, we have scheduled tentatively for tomorrow. So we're trying to truck right along, and the idea with moving along that expeditiously is to get this to the board for a vote on September. I won't be around for that, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. And what we would see is whichever one ends up being the recommended selection, staff will include that proposal in there, as well as who submitted and what those scores were in the scoring rubric. So, but I would say that I think that we came out really well. I think that there was good information in the RFP. Thank you very much, Tony, for your help on that. And some of the folks that asked about things ahead of time, as well as that we have communicated with kind of in the RFP process, clearly they've looked at some of what the golf clubhouse citizen advisory committee has been doing. So I think the work that you guys have done has let people know that there is an active community that's looking at this, so, which is a good thing. So it looks strong, we're on our way, and we should be on time for September for going to the board. And when that gets published in the board packet, we're gonna send out an email to the stakeholder list, which includes all of our CAC members. So you all will be notified too on where that is so that you can see it as soon as it's available. And that's usually, we typically do the Thursday prior to the board meeting, so there's a full week in advance that gets published. Do you guys have any questions?
Anybody?
Thought Joe raised his hand, but maybe. Sorry.
Joe, we're still having some. Joe, the audio is really bad. I would just mute yourself, and if you do want to say something, I would say maybe put it through the chat.
Yeah, and Richard, I would say do not funnel any sound in here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. It's just not performing the way we want it to. But the chat feature will go fine. So,
All right.
Question, so
yes.
For the RFP, what are these, what was some of the questions that they were asked?
So,
What was their considerations?
yeah, so that's a good, so as you look through, so the RFP had a couple of different sections. And the main ones, when you look at what we scored them on, were and this was basically, as you go through the proposal, they kind of, most of them kind of worked right through it. But project understanding and key issues, approach and resource allocation, and that largely comes down to your approach and project management. How is this going to proceed and be designed as a project? Qualifications and experience, and so that might be your performance examples, things from your portfolio that you've done or your team has done that are applicable. Qualifications and experience would be more about your team, the individuals in it. And so that's who's in it. Then the performance examples is another thing that we scored on, and that's what's in your portfolio. Sustainability, there were a couple of factors for us. We don't have anything in CPRD's bylaws or targets for that, but if they could talk about building performance and efficiency, good water use, those things as far as good stewardship of limited resources and having buildings perform well as buildings, those are all good things. And then supportive information, that tended to be for most of the applicants, additional information about the team and the things they've done. It might also be references, it might be other things in their portfolio they want to talk about, but that didn't quite fit into their performance examples for some reason. And then for those that kind of made shortlist to the interviews, then there are other criteria we just kind of score on that we just said generally in the rubric it's interviews, but we have the same questions we ask at each interview to make sure that it's consistent on how we're talking to people, asking them questions, getting information from them.
Okay.
And so for anyone that wasn't familiar with it, the RFP that was sent out, it has a main body to it, and that was kind of giving instructions on what we expect to see from people in the submittal. And so there's this portion that has response contents that talks about what we expect to get, when those questions are due, and those sorts of things. And then there were a handful of attachments, though, that we were giving them information about the project, including a map of the project location, a sample scope of work, and that's where a lot of the details about things that were really vetted and dialogued a lot about by this group, those were in there that kind of don't tell you what you have to do, but it says a flavor of what we expect. That seems, Tony, does that seem like the right way to characterize that?
That's pretty good.
Okay, and then we put in a draft professional services agreement there. That should just help move along the process and getting them signed up after it goes to the board. And then we also ended up putting in some details about the golf course 9-hole edition, because we asked that for this as a feasibility study, they evaluate it not just as an 18-hole course, but as a 27-hole course when we do that 9-hole edition. Because it's going to operate in a very different way in the future, or at least the revenues and counts and things like that for operations and sustainability would be
Different
different.
requirements.
Yep.
things like that.
So those are all available. If for some reason anyone hasn't seen those components or had any problems finding them, let me know and I can send those around.
I did like the additions you made to include the draft, the early work visioning that was done. as well.
The renderings?
Yeah, the rendering.
Well, I will tell you, there were also two, that's a good segue. There were two addendums that were released. The first one was because there was a rendering that was placed in the Newberg graphic, and it's because a picture of that rendering was in our CAC report. And so that was put out there, and someone said, hey, what did this come from, and are we supposed to build to this? So we said, we tried to make it clear that you're not expected to build to it, but it was a pro bono work done by Michael Bond, which was very generous of him to do, and he has a great kind of connection with the golf course and has been very candid about that. And in a prior firm that he had worked with, he had done those renderings as part of that conversation with the community, but we wanted to make sure that all of that stuff was known so that some people didn't have more information than others, or that we also didn't have people wondering where did this come from and what are we supposed to do with it. So that addendum was released, and then the second addendum was just moving it from a holiday to the day after a holiday for the submission deadline. So, yes.
I see in the scoring, nothing was put in there about price. So I assume price was part of the proposals that were
There was-
submitted to you?
There was a brief description that we have up to $160,000 available in there.
So they're
Because
price-
it's in the budget, it's a publicly available document, so we went ahead.
Under
and
ORS 279, they can't ask for price for professional services. called
It's gonna be time and
qualification-based
materials, but they have to
So that's-
scope it to stay under what we have.
Okay. So they didn't have to submit their price?
It's not a lowest responsible bidder kind of
Right,
contract.
wasn't asking for.
But that's part of, one of the questions was, what steps are you gonna take to deliver what we want for the budget that we have? And that was supposed to be part of one of the response criteria that they got evaluated on.
Oh, good, so that was,
And I would say, to me, that was typically found in approach and resource allocation. To me, that's a project management question, as well as a cost control, quality control kind of question. So that's where that usually fell within. And I mean, you could argue that's also under project understanding. What's the scope?
my second question is, I noticed in the last board meeting, a contract was issued to somebody for the new pickleball courts and things, and they're not meeting the time commitments that were in the proposal. So what kind of provisions are will be in this contract to assume that they'll stay on?
Usually in the service contract, there's a ability to terminate the contract. And you give, sometimes there's cause or without cause, other times it's simply notice is X number of days. And that's what we have in this contract, it's just X number of days. And I don't remember if it's 14 or 30, but usually it's if it's not working, you just tell them, we're done. And you also tell them, stop all work, and we're gonna go ahead and terminate.
But there will be provisions in this.
Yes, it'd be in the contract for services, but that is pretty common. And yes, the timelines we're luckily with the pickleball court, they have mobilized. They were struggling to get mobilized in the schedule they told us they would. We expressed that we were not happy about that, and they, instead of being 2 weeks out, they were only 1 week out, so they did come somewhere to the middle of where they said they were gonna be, so they gave us a bit of time back. We're still not thrilled, but we're keeping an eye on them, and they appear to be moving in the right direction.
And then who will be the staff person?
So far, it's going to be me.
Oh,
It'll be the main person, but it's gonna likely be with input at different times from, it's probably gonna be a combination of it. I'm not sure who's gonna be the point person, if it's gonna be Kellen or Casey or Julie. It may be Kellen, if we can do that, but some of the project management aspect of this is new to him, so I'll probably have to stay in some way. But we'll go with how that works, because what I want is for Casey to be able to stick with the projects that he's got. Plus, I think that having Kellen as our golf pro get involved with this would probably be a good thing and a good growth experience for him too, if he hasn't been involved with a development project like this. So, also
One of
give
the
him
bigger
some, give him
projects
some
that-
ownership of the project.
One of the biggest projects that CPRD has ever done, would it be?
I mean, I don't know, it depends on what you compare it to. I don't know that from so if it includes a 9-hole addition plus the construction of a clubhouse, it depends on what we see from the feasibility study on what the recommended scope and those things are. But it would be a pretty substantial facility as things go. It wouldn't be on the caliber of an aquatic center, and it wouldn't be on the scale of trying to do an adaptive reuse to a 1930s era school. It would still be pretty significant. So it's up there.
Okay.
And I think if that would happen, the golf course is already one of our, what I would consider kind of a flagship location. And so adding a new clubhouse to that would definitely enhance that, strengthen it, make it bigger.
Everybody would agree there.
Any other questions on the RFP? Sounds like we'll know more before the board
Yep.
meeting in September.
We'll try and make sure everyone knows as timely as possible. But it's really kind of an administrative procedure for the most part here, but to say that we are very happy with the responses that we got. I think we've got some good ones. We're in a good position to make a selection.
Super.
And what about the feasibility study, if you don't mind me asking? What is, after the acceptance of whoever it is, they're the ones that are going to be responsible for establishing a feasibility study?
It'll be their project at that
That's what
point.
this is all about?
Yep.
Okay.
And so there'll be kind of the site analysis, market analysis, and financial kind of feasibility aspect, the numbers or economics
Mhm.
associated with it. Then what you learn from that site analysis and that market analysis and whatever economic aspects go with that and the operations thereof, you go into starting to do some design work to develop some alternatives that reflect what you've learned. And then you end up kind of coming forward with those. Somewhere in there's outreach. I don't know, depending on the selected consultant, that could happen earlier, it could happen a little later. They might want to put it somewhere square in the middle where it's acting as a bridge from what we've learned to the alternatives that we're developing. Alternatively, they might want to have some concepts so they can float around with the public and see what people are feeling. And then you eventually distill that down to a single preferred alternative, but you do that in consultation through outreach, and then in front of the board, you say, we did these things, this is what we've heard, this is what we have as a recommendation for a preferred alternative. And part of that's gonna be, and this is why it's sustainable in the long run, and why it's a feasible project. Because that is part of the through line of the exercise, is making sure that this is a financially sustainable operation, that it's not gonna be an anchor to the district. And so, then that's how they're calibrating, I would think, any of the design alternatives they come up with.
So it's a good segue to what's next for this committee.
Yeah.
And I think it's really up to the contract that you negotiate with them as to what our engagement will be with the committee. It could be on the end of, they could use us as a sounding board and wanna present to us on some interim milestones. And it would help, I think, if this committee weighed in and said, yeah, we like it, when it goes to the board that's been pre-reviewed and pre-blessed by a citizen committee before it goes to the board. I think that's a pretty strong way to do it, if I was them. So you don't want the board to hear about it the first time and say, no, we don't like this, and get an uproar of citizens saying they don't like the idea. But the rhythm at which we review or are engaged is really gonna be up to that consultant and the contract.
But I would say, from what I've seen, the folks who have submitted proposals are aware the committee exists. And I think they see it as a tool in the toolbox to help for making a strong project.
Good. I like that. So our definition of the next year or phase, what we're in right now, who's gonna define that? I would assume
I would
you.
think the contract, if the board recommends or approves the contract in September, later this month, they'd probably be under contract sometime in October. It'll take some back and forth to go through all the contracting and the negotiation on the price and whatnot. Unless you're doing that now, before it goes to the board.
No, not right now. We'll do it after the board makes a preferred alternative, or makes the selection, says go forth.
Go forth up to this limit. And so I could see us not really being involved much until November,
Okay.
January timeframe, November, December, January.
And as needed, I would say that we could also, if this group wants, the ability to pause or even make the meetings less frequent, but letting me know that it's okay to call a special meeting because it's part of the project would be good communication to get. Because I don't want necessarily the group to have to come together and get a meeting when there's nothing to talk about.
I agree.
It's not a good use of staff time, it's not a good use of your time.
And it will be budgeted for the consultant.
Yeah, and so,
Do we have a time frame on this thing at all? What is the?
yeah,
timeframe?
so we should be able to roll into this, so if it gets kind of done with the board, it'll be kind of authorized and the contract for service would get signed off on by staff and folks once the board has approved it. Sometime in October, hopefully the first half of October, and then we get rolling after there, depending on how quickly they can turn around and do a kickoff meeting or something like that. And then I would generally expect that if they are lightning fast, maybe you could go as fast as getting done in February. Could go as long as perhaps April, somewhere in there, is generally what I would expect. It really depends on what they want to see in their site analysis.
Yeah.
And then how much time they want to take for doing some of the outreach and things like that too.
Okay, so that means you guys are gonna have a break for a while.
Sure.
Again, there's some interim things in there, decisions they're gonna make, and, you know, when they're talking about the TIs, the tenant improvements inside the building, if they wanna check in, with use us as a sounding board before going to the full, public open house, that's,
Yeah, that might be an approach that I could see them wanting to say, well, what have you guys already covered, for example?
but the goal is to have a preferred alternative, the recommended alternative in the price in time for next year's budget cycle. So it gets rolled into the effective July 1 for the new budgets to start
Yeah.
going into the full design of it. Or maybe a design build.
Yeah, having an understanding of what we're getting ourselves into potentially so we can put it in the capital improvement program is what we're looking for.
All right, fantastic.
What about other issues related to the golf course?
Well, that would be, I guess, this committee precedes me. What was your homework from the board? What did they assign, what did they want this group to do? Focus on this particular kind of issue area, next step, or the golf course itself?
I can answer that. I was part of the first committee, and it morphed, if the right word, into taking care of the needs of the golf course. And so we were commissioned to find out what is the need of, for example, the rollers for the greens. There's other things that were going wrong. The pump, the water pump was too small. And so we were asked to find these various things out. Who was a gentleman that, well, you guys would not know, that was the caretaker over there, that eventually he was eliminated or let go. He would constantly inform us, because I think he was a liaison with us, as far as what we are in need of in the club, the golf course. So that's what I remember when we first came up and started presenting all of this information of the needs of it, and we never got anything done. And that was the
It's
frustration.
not true. We did get some things
You
done.
did?
Yeah.
Well, I never saw him. Don seemed to have, everybody turned to Don most of the time and said, Don, what do you think? What do we should do? And all that. They were so new that I assume that's why they were.
The people that would turn to Don, would that be the staff that were the liaisons, or the people on the committee? Okay, the board. Oh, the board, okay.
And
Because-
so, yeah,
Because we would question Don about this or that.
yeah. And he would say sometimes, I'll handle that. It'll be done in a week or whatever. Yeah, it's already on the budget to buy the rollers. It's already budgeted, et cetera. That's what we remember, but nothing ever came out. I say nothing, I don't know the smaller things that took place. of what-
Can I ask, did that feel like that was a good exercise for a volunteer CAC committee? Did it feel like you guys were in a position to help effectively with kind of finding those things and bringing those up?
They all quit, so I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I will tell you, as a board member, as these things were brought up, I was very thankful that they were brought up. It was a little worrisome that it seemed like there was so many things that were brought up, but I was very thankful that these things were brought up, because I'm not at the golf course every day. I didn't see the algae or whatever it was that was blooming in
Yes.
our ponds. Is it blooming now?
I don't think so.
See,
I haven't golfed for a while.
it was solved.
You see
Yeah, no.
growth on the,
Yes.
Is there growth on it
so
right now?
they haven't changed the 1.5 horsepower motor that's running the big pond.
Maybe that's something that you could look into as our
But
I'm
your
not the
point
liaison,
being-
I'm the sub, but I can
Yeah.
definitely look into it.
yeah.
So-
I mean, if we
Yeah, that was,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and another thing we had problems with was there was sprinkler problems, but those are forever going to be problems.
Irrigation.
So, another problem we had was there was some kind of a net issue.
Golf,
Driving range?
driving range net.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was resolved, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, no, they wanted to try to salvage some balls going into the gully there.
Yeah.
Right.
On the right, yeah.
And,
So-
and I can tell you some of the answer on that. So we had made administratively, had chosen not to pursue that net. Specifically talked to Kellen about it because that net cost about $40,000.
Gee.
And it would take a long time to lose $40,000 of balls
Okay.
in the creek.
Yeah.
So that was a conscious decision that it would be ideal to not lose those balls down the creek. And we've talked about some alternatives, like doing a low fence to catch the low balls. They just said, you're not catching enough of them, it's not really worth it.
Hey, I'd like to ask a question that I think some of the people here would like, I think everybody here would like to know. We do not have and have not seen a rendering as to what the proposed changes for the bypass, what that's going to do to our golf course. My understanding was we were going to lose property, but we were going to gain property. It would be really great if we could actually see some kind of idea, have some kind of idea, where is this gonna cut through? What are we gonna lose, what are we gonna gain, and what's the plan?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
When's the last time that this body received information about the level of impact expected by the bypass? Ever?
It was never happened. The only time I've had brief conversations with Dawn,
Okay.
but it's been a while.
So if we did even a short presentation to kind of go over some of the expected things that, to the extent that we know about them, would that be
That would be
helpful?
fantastic,
Yeah, okay.
especially if we put it on the screen.
Yeah,
We can actually
that's what
see
I'd
it.
like to do, just to share it
Yeah.
with everyone, because we can make that available and can try and
That would
put that in a
be
packet.
fabulous, yeah.
We don't have a ton.
Slight change from our charter.
Well, that's,
I was gonna say, what
Our
is the
charter
charter?
is specifically to the clubhouse.
yeah.
Well, okay,
you
well,
look
that's
at
fine. I'm sorry that I'm talking about something that's separate.
Well,
And that would be
that's-
nice.
That's what we're talking about.
What's next?
That's kind of what we were asking
Can we
about.
transition our
There are
charter
some
to-
things that maybe
To
we,
include, be a sounding board for the maintenance, for the
Sure.
maintenance and for Kellen for all things golf course related.
And from a procedure standpoint, who approved your guys' charter? Did you guys approve it? Did the board approve it?
the board,
The board does, okay.
You look at-
I would think it's the board, but I wasn't here.
the application for this committee
Got it.
was about the committee. The purpose of the committee is to provide recommendations to the board of directors regarding the new construction of a clubhouse at the golf course.
Well, and the other thing is, we can also do the bypass impacts to the golf course to the board members.
Yeah.
And invite any of the golf course clubhouse committee members to come to the meeting, tune in, whatever they would like, so even if it isn't in the charter now.
The other thing is, okay, we know that we're gonna have 4 or 5 months in which we're not gonna have anything to do. Now granted, those are also gonna be light usage months, so it probably isn't worthwhile to change what the direction that we're already heading. You know what I mean? Add new ideas. So we're probably better off just to leave it the way it is, because we're not even gonna be in a high usage month.
Well, before we make that final decision.
Yeah.
Roger, you were brought up that point, of having this committee not be part of the public's eye. In what regard, how would that happen?
Look at it forming a different type of committee, not necessarily an advisory committee to the board, but more of I forgot what the term was now.
Focus group?
Focus group, thank you.
And that was something that Roger and I had a separate conversation when we were talking about what can different bodies do and how different ways to assist the park. So a committee is one, it's specifically an advisory body that's got a charter, supposed to stay on top, it can do certain things, and it's gotta go to public meetings. But then there's also things where focus groups are more like stakeholders or volunteers that you've brought together just to give you input, and that's usually when you're speaking to staff. And that's why you don't have to go to the board for things. But if you're advising the board, if that's your mandate, then that's why you're meeting, is because there's a conduit to the board. For example, one of our committees right now is doing work that feels and looks a lot like volunteer work, where they're largely advising staff on operational things. Still valuable, but it's not necessarily what committees usually do. And committee meetings are pretty cumbersome, because you have to have a public meeting, you have to meet, you're not supposed to talk about stuff outside of the meeting, and those sorts of things, which can really hamper being able to move along. So if you don't have to have a committee, because that's not really what you're doing, then there's other forms you can take. Something like a focus group or a group of volunteers is another way of doing it too. But to Jason's point, if we want this committee to continue to be available as we get into the feasibility study, I think that, to me, the nexus is close enough that even though we're focused on the clubhouse and the feasibility study, the golf course is getting impacted, and the 9-hole addition is related to the future of the golf course in general. If we needed to change the charter, we could certainly do that. But I also don't mind doing an informational presentation on the impacts of the bypass to the golf course, because I do think that's somewhat related, especially if you think about development of the clubhouse of the golf course, and how the golf course itself will be impacted by the footprint of the clubhouse. And if you're impacting it over here, and now you're potentially impacting it where the clubhouse modifications are happening, there's a lot of change happening. So I don't think it seems that far outside of the realm of what this committee would want to do. So I could see, for example, moving to where you guys meet every other month, because we're getting into a period where it's going to be slower, but in either the next meeting or the one after that, bringing like an informational presentation about bypass, if that seems like that's going in the direction you're interested in.
Probably get the right-of-way agent to come in.
That's right. So that's, I mean, if I don't have to give the presentation, but I can get ODOT to do it, so much the better. But we do have at least some materials I know that we should be able to share. I'd also want to make sure with ODOT that those are good enough to share, that it's not going to create confusion later, so I'd want to do it in coordination with them.
I would, sorry, I'm still kind of new after only a couple meetings, but
Sure.
I think I would personally like to see this committee morph into a formal golf advisory committee where the clubhouse and the third nine is a part of it. There needs to be a voice. I'm not saying that the board's voice isn't enough. Of course, we give an opinion to the board. But I would look at it a little differently when we talk about it being slow the next few months. Well, I think there's some other golf issues that this committee could give opinion on. So I guess I just kind of want to throw out there, I think this might be an opportune time to adjust the charter, if that's what we need to do, so that we can give advice on everything from like rollers and other things that we've talked about, the
Equipment,
golf.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and to go off on that, the other thing is if you guys are not meeting regularly, everything starts to fall apart. So I think that it is a good idea to do exactly what you're saying.
But can we be two things at once?
Sure. Well,
Well, why
I
would you
don't know
need
that
two
you
things?
are.
No,
Yeah.
I think we just change our charter and title to something more.
But we're always gonna be in front of the public if we're continuing to be a committee.
That's not a problem. You guys got
Advisory
nothing to hide. You guys just want the best thing for the golf course.
The problem is that we can't work together as a group, hashing things out, discussing things, without being in front of the public if there's a quorum.
You can assign-
If there is a quorum.
You can assign different members of this body here to go do this or that during the meeting, and they go out and do it, and you come back and report what you found.
I'm well aware of that, but very often that doesn't happen.
We just can't go play golf together unless we post a potential notice of conflict.
And you could go play golf as long as you don't talk about anything involved in this committee, which would be hard.
Did
to
Jeff
believe.
have a comment? I saw him typing, I didn't know whether, did you have?
Joe?
No, okay. I saw him typing, I thought you were
But-
a comment or
He's
something.
actually doing his work.
One of the things I would say from staff, we're fine with the charter being amended, as long as it's still useful to the future of whatever the topic is and the board. If it's just people talking to staff, I would just soon not have a committee. Because people talking, because it can be cumbersome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be cumbersome that way. But if it is something that is eventually needs to get to the board and needs to help get somewhere, that it can be good to do that. I just want to make sure that our committees have real homework they're working on, and that they're trying to do something, that we're not just having night meetings for fun. Because it is, any staff that's doing this, they've already worked their day. And that's not always me that's doing these, so I'm speaking up on behalf of all of our staff that
And
do this
Richard
stuff.
has to be for every one of them.
Right now, Richard is for everyone. We're specifically doing upgrades in the back room back there so that we can do that without having Richard have to tune in for every single night meeting, for example.
Okay.
So we're trying to get some efficiencies where that's a little easier.
So for an example, I also asked Tony earlier, I serve on the Yamhill County Road Improvement Advisory Committee, which is the Public Works Citizen Committee. And there's different committees at the county level, but the Public Works Director proposes his budget through us first, and then we say, makes sense, and we make a recommendation to the board to approve the budget. So he goes in with his budget having been vetted by a citizen committee. If he wants to buy a new piece of equipment, wants to add a different type of staff position, he uses us as a sounding board, and we write that letter and say, yes, we concur that this is the best use of public money. Would a committee like that for the golf course be beneficial to the board?
You know what, I will tell you, I think it does, because here's the thing, is if we have more eyes out there that we're not seeing, I think it's absolutely beneficial. So, where it's not beneficial is if we're complaining about, I saw garbage on the floor, you know what I mean, it's
Yeah.
common sense, big things.
But looking at, the roof of the existing clubhouse and helping prioritize what not just staff thinks is the best use for the course, but a citizen body that's
Sure.
concurring with that prioritized ranking. Yeah, that word. Yeah, we concur with the ranking. We know there's a lot of things that could be improved, but here's our top 5 that we'd recommend get budgeted in for the following year.
Yeah.
Is that part of a public process?
Yes.
That when your committee meets?
Yeah, and then the board can look at those recommendations and they can say, thank you for bringing this to our attention. What you may or may not know is this is something that we have planned. So, but I think it is very valuable to, to bring your ideas and suggestions forth.
It would take a Kellen to be engaged with the overall operations of the total golf course, of the new back nine, the ODOT right-of-way impacts, the big programmatic maintenance issues. We're not gonna care
You
about
actually
us
got
changing
two.
a sprinkler head.
You got Kellen and you've got, Brian.
Brian.
because
You
of
will have them to an
operations.
extent. I will say, we are a very lean staff already, in my opinion. So asking for those things is fine, but there are impacts for that. So I may in turn be turning to the board and saying, I need more staff if you want us to be able to come to board meetings and get things approved at those. And right now, I mean, I think that when we go through, we only have 1 month, so it depends on what form it takes. I would just be cautious about adding additional administrative burden when we don't have that much staff. We're designed for years. It was one of the big things for, I would say, Don, when he was here before, lean staff, leave all your opportunities open. And so as a result, we're very lean, and there tends not to be concrete plans in place so that we can be opportunistic. Those strategically were kind of the choice in how they worked on things. So if we add administrative burden, it's okay, but there's extra resources that need to be used for that. And sometimes you add administrative burden, you're making things move slower because you're waiting for that next meeting to go forward, even when we do like procurement for certain things now. So it's okay to do it, I'm open to it, but there are consequences to those. We just need to make sure we're resourced properly to do those. And the other thing I would actually ask too, if it's on the, like what gets purchased and what gets prioritized, that's starting to feel pretty operational, which to me is usually administrative. And so it makes me wonder, why would a citizen group know better than the staff who are there 40+ hours a week, which things are in due for more things? Doesn't mean we shouldn't have a voice from the community about what they see and what they feel is well past its prime and needs to be fixed up. But I would kind of ask that question of like,
I'll tell you,
what's different?
We never override Mark at Yamhill County in the riot committee. It's, we just ask, what did you think of things, but whatever his budget is usually.
What are some of the most valuable things that you feel like in the past you guys have been able to help them with? That, I'd be really curious about that.
They built a whole new public works yard, a
Uh-huh.
whole new facility. They actually used GFU students to do the site
cool.
design for the yard and the new building, and their intern to help get an intern from George Fox Engineering Program to work here for you, pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But they, so we were involved in some of those conversations about space planning, fit and finish of the building. What finishes do we want in the admin office and versus the shop. We involved the Native Plant Society in planting all of the landscape area around really been involved in the weed control around the county and having a weed committee that will learn. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that RIAC has been engaged in over the years.
Very cool. And Corey, you were saying there were some things that you had in mind that seemed like they might be ripe to kind of be expanded into?
Well, I think this probably isn't the right meeting to kind of go into those details. I think,
Okay.
The board represents the community, but not just around golf, right? They have other
Right.
parks and the pool, et cetera. I think if you had a focus group of just the golf, such as this committee, if we recharter it, that can give you kind of more regular, consistent feedback. And not saying that we don't need to hear it from other parts of the parks and the pools and stuff. But I think the board might appreciate that. And I'm hoping it doesn't take a lot of staff time. Like, I don't want to be micromanaging the course. I just want to have a more consistent voice that other members can, or excuse me, golfers can come to me or any of us and say, hey, we've got some feedback. Can you guys share this with the board? I think that would be my hope.
Yeah.
But no, I don't need to meet every other week with Kellen at 5 o'clock and take up his time and stuff. However, I feel like the current, in my few years here, my current experience is, I feel like my feedback doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
And maybe I need to come to more CPRD board meetings or something. I don't know. What I do know is, because I talk to staff too, and
Yeah.
sometimes the staff's opinion is different than some of the leadership at the golf course. And maybe that just doesn't come to this table
Right.
where it can be decided on. And I think if you've got a focus group that is willing to represent the voice of the golfing community.
Yeah.
You know, and hey, some people don't feel like I'm doing a good job, I'm happy not to
Well-
be back on in a year or two.
Well, like I said, it is one of what I consider one of our flagship locations. It's a ton of acreage, gets a lot of usage, and it has all sorts of user groups that get to use it for schools and sports and all sorts of other things. And I think that we have a public golf course is really unique. Most golf courses are private. And so that we, in theory, have to think broader about how we welcome people to golf as a sport and to spaces that have golf, but also have other things, like have hiking trails around them and things like that. I think that we're in a position where that can be really good. And, I mean, I'm not at the golf course enough, I don't know if everybody feels that your kind of opinions and feedback don't often go anywhere. And so I think that most of our staff are working in good faith, but they might feel like they're, you know, just a cog, and that they're like, thanks, and then it might not go anywhere. So happy to receive those, and I don't mind this committee morphing into something else. And if it's related to procurement, if it's related to operations and improvement, all those things are fine. And it's also up to what the board really wants and what they think should happen down there.
And I'm not, please don't take any of my feedback as criticism of the staff or anything
Yep.
like that. It's more
Not
of,
at all.
I think it'd be even easier for the staff if they're getting feedback from other
Yeah.
people, non-committee members. They're welcome to punt it to us, put our names or pictures on the board, they can come to us and we'll help field that. But our interest is strictly around the golf course.
Yeah.
Versus
You can be
security
focused.
board that has to look at the big picture, which I very much respect and not trying to intrude on. But I
Yeah.
think, I think we were more of the voice in general of golf, and the golf clubhouse and back nine or third nine is just a piece of that. We can also help defend some of the decisions made. So just a thought.
So what I suggest is, our next meeting is 10/13. So that's what we had scheduled, second Tuesday. Clay, I can work with you, trying to get ODOT, maybe a right-of-way person to come in, or.
Sure.
Because I know your consultant's gonna wanna know what that ODOT footprint looks like too, because it may affect
I'm sure.
the layout of everything.
Yeah,
I think I've got some friends over there I can.
right.
help
We've got,
fill
and I
in.
haven't reached out to Andrew Walker for a while, but he's
Yeah.
over there as the project manager, but I also saw a new name up for phase 2 too, as well.
But for the committee, if we want to consider morphing the committee from just the clubhouse mission to the overall, noodle on that this month and shoot me some ideas and on what a new committee charter could include. And we can workshop that at the next meeting and present it back to the board as a potential morphing of this committee from just clubhouse to Chehalem and Glen.
Who has the charter? Do you? I don't remember seeing it.
Didn't Roger just say that it's on the
It's on the
application?
application,
And it's on the mission
and
statement.
the mission statement.
And the missions.
Yeah, that was our mission statement.
So it's more of the mission statement that the board charged us with.
Okay.
So are you guys wanting to meet again to discuss what you want to change it to? Because my suggestion is, if you just got a sentence you want to say right now, I say put it out there right now. Let's make it happen. And then, otherwise, you know what happens is, we have a meeting about a meeting, about a meeting, about a meeting, and then nothing ever
It's
happens.
6:45, we're into this an hour tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we wanna meet and look at what.
I'll tell you what we could do, is, we could assign one of you guys to put something together. Okay? If I'm just talking out loud, you guys do what you guys wanna do.
Sure.
You guys could assign one of you guys that thinks they have a pretty good idea what they wanna do, put something together, hand it to Clay, and say, and you guys vote on letting this guy put that together, if you guys trust somebody. The president, who's the president?
We have co-chairs,
Take your
Roger and Tony.
And what does it take to make a quorum?
We have 5 active members now, or 6?
6, I believe,
Six
don't
total.
we?
So 2 guys can talk?
You can have 2 guys, you can't have 3.
So there you go. So the two,
So Roger and I get together.
you
have
guys
coffee
get
and-
together, put something
pitch an
together,
idea.
put it together, and we'll vote on it the next meeting.
Yeah.
Versus make this thing wait another, because we won't have anything to talk about, really.
Well, we'll meet the architect team in October, and the ODOT, what the ramifications are, and
Is that gonna be at this
2 and
meeting
5.
though? Or is that gonna be at the board meeting?
I don't know if you'll meet the consultants at the board meeting. I know I usually don't go to the board meeting when I get a contract awarded.
The board's gonna have to
I
decide.
think, I wouldn't be surprised if they show up, but we would not require them to be there.
Okay.
I would suspect they'd at least be there via Zoom, most likely.
Okay.
I just let you know, I'm gonna be out of town.
I can meet.
I'm in Kauai.
Roger and I can meet.
Zoom in from there, come on.
So Clay,
4-hour
There's-
time, 3-hour time, is-
Yep.
I'm gonna be on the plane.
can I get your name right? Okay. Clay, I proposed one time, before you came in, that we take what the Board of Directors has available to them is an executive session. I read about it in the state definition of committees and advisory committees. And in it, I swear it said that you can meet as long as without the view of the public, if you ask or get involved in a executive committee.
But there's only specific things you
Yeah,
can call
executive committee is
committees.
purchasing
That
properties.
definition, I do not know the
Yes.
definition of any of that.
Personnel.
And-
legal.
financial.
And you asked me this a month or 2 after I started, and I
Yeah.
said it to our attorney,
Yep.
and we didn't see anything where a committee would be otherwise. So executive session does not appear to apply to a committee of this sort.
Okay, so anything that we're doing as far as conversation, even if it's just gathering of information, making the small piles of work that we have been working on, that would have to be in front of the public?
If it's more than a quorum, and actually I would say that you have 6 people in your body, your quorum is actually 4 people, so you could have up to 3 people meet as kind of a work group, you just can't have more than that. So you can assign work groups and do that sort of thing outside of a meeting, you just can't have your entire body meet outside of a public meeting. And it's because there is no executive session that appears to be applicable. So for example, the board can meet in executive session because they might be talking about real estate matters or personnel. And those are things that are specifically listed as an executive session. And this body as an advisory body just doesn't appear to have any of those authorities where it's a sensitive topic that requires an executive session.
Well, we know our restrictions on the written laws or rules of the Oregon, which I believe you, CPRD, accepted and ran with as far as how you're gonna be running the committees, advisory committees like this. Because it's by law now, it's the rules of Oregon.
Yeah.
But in it, you probably are absolutely correct. I'm gonna have to read that, but it sure seemed like we were able to privately get together in formulating our next public meeting. But
Not that I'm aware of. Oh, if you find that, you're welcome to send it to me, but to the best of my knowledge, no. The other thing I would say is if, this committee is good for doing some things, it's not gonna be good for doing everything. If there is some other channel where there's the golf squad, and the golf squad is just a group of volunteers that get together and do stuff, and they're really more direct staff interface, and every once in a while, staff kind of takes it on their behalf as kind of a pack of volunteers, then, that's a different approach. It doesn't have to be this body, but I don't want the interest in doing good things for the community, for the golf course, for whomever, to, just be hung up on just these types of things. Committees are supposed to do certain things, and committees are generally expected to meet in a public meeting so the public gets to know what's going on. And you get away from the feeling that people are doing stuff behind closed doors and not telling you about it. And then suddenly it shows up and it's fully baked and it's at the board, and it doesn't feel good.
So are there volunteers to relook at our mission statement? outside of this meeting?
I'll be part of it.
Looking at Corey.
I did good in math and science. That's what I did medicine, not English. I can try. I'm happy to help.
I'm gonna show you, I'm good at math and numbers.
You know, what I was gonna say too, is if anyone has a thought on what they feel it should be, you can just send it to me and I'll add it to essentially an agenda packet for the next meeting, then everybody gets to see it before the next meeting. But if you wanna make that person me this time around, and it's gonna be usually, who is the official liaison for this committee? Is it Kellen or is it
Yes,
Julie?
It's Kellen.
It's Kellen, okay.
That's the board appointed Kellen.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, cause I know that, and some of it has to do with just scheduling, that I've come in sometimes and came in late enough that I wasn't sure if it had switched over time or something like that. But Kellen has, like tonight, had conflicts where he just couldn't make it, so he and I always talk about it, but.
Clay, what's your opinion with the board? Do you feel like this idea is something that they're interested in, or are we barking up the wrong tree and we should focus just on the clubhouse? Because I don't want to waste our time writing up a new charter, but if the board feels like, I'd kind of like to offload some of this work to an advisory committee to represent the public view more.
I mean, I think they could potentially, because I think that they can see that there's changes that are being thought of. I would think that some of the board members are probably not golfers, and so if it's something that says, how do we deliver good service for our golf community and make it feel welcoming to the rest of our community? And if I was gonna put third one in, just to be sneaky, it'd be lure extra people into golfing, because we have this beautiful facility, wouldn't you like to have more people using it? Then I don't think that there would be a problem with any of that. And so if that is like mandate the homework, because I think every committee needs to have homework, otherwise I don't think it should be a committee anymore.
And I will say one more thing. If it wasn't for this group or the group prior to this, okay, the golf course, advisory, I guess is what we're gonna call them. They're responsible for getting in this, this thing where
Even talking about this,
we're, huh?
where we're even talking
No,
about this.
where we're raising money for a future golf course.
Yeah, that's a good
To be able
mechanism.
to pay for this. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even have this $160,000 to spend on
Good
this.
point.
So, because it was a previous group that suggested we do this, and of course the board said yes. Great, wonderful,
And it's pretty simple, effective
yeah,
way of.
We're talking about the $5 surcharge.
Can I ask a silly question?
sure.
Yeah,
When ODOT bought the right of way in the district, was it just a land swap, or was there some money that changed hands that would help
but
offset the
which
damages?
right of way? The right of way that's the Providence alignment?
Yes.
I'm
not aware of any dollars that switch hands.
So there's no damages that they paid for?
so it's not final yet, so I would say that those things are all still in progress.
Okay.
So the compensation associated with the exchange of land is not final.
Okay.
So
And
that's,
that hasn't been brought to any board member that I'm aware of.
and that's
at
why,
any
because
meeting.
it's not final. And part of it has to do with the relationship, there's also a part of this that is ODOT, and then it's
Providence.
Providence, and then there's us. And it's because there were some other, Providence was even more impacted, and so the idea was that it's routing, so we get impacted, but not as badly as Providence would be, but we get to do the assessments and kind of figure out how much are those damages, what is it worth to us? And what I would like to see is that we figure that out, and that helps springboard us into development of our clubhouse and our additional 9 holes, because if we're mobilizing to do changes for these impacts, then go ahead and mobilize for those other changes, potentially. So, I don't know if that might be a little pie in the sky, but I think that's what I would like to see happen.
Be a chunk of money.
Could be a chunk of money. I'm almost certain it will be a chunk of money.
So what's the homework assignment that my name got thrown out there?
So
What are we doing and
you
when are
may
we
follow
doing it?
together and strategize on a proposed charter
Amendment.
new mission.
Okay, and does that need to go to the rest of the group?
It'll be an
or-
amendment.
We'd present that at the
Yeah.
October meeting.
Yep.
We'd give that to Clay, and Clay would chew on it. and-
Well, I'm not gonna do anything with it, I'm gonna transmit it, but I'm gonna have it in the agenda packet so everybody gets to see it. Cause you're not supposed to, like, do these deliberative things and then share it with your entire committee, right? So you send it to staff and then staff puts it in the packet and then you all get to see it that way.
And then what might be a good idea is to have one of you guys come to the meeting and just say, hey, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah,
Real easy.
Great job.
That's how this steering committee.
You guys can argue over it.
All right,
I mean, having someone like a co-chair say that, hey, we're thinking about modifying the charter, and even asking the board, are you open to us doing this? We think we'd be a good voice for the community, specific to the golf course. Because I mean, if you do think about big facilities, for example, the cultural center, it has its own nonprofit leased inside of it that has its own board, so they have a voice through their board. They're not part of CPRD in the same way. The relationship is much different. But this is a big complicated facility that gets lots of traffic. And it's really kind of an important, unique piece of the local economy too. So, I mean, I have specifically found hotel room keys from the new hotel on the walking trail, so I know that people are coming down and using it. So, just one so far, it's not too many. Great.
one sec. Somebody's leaving their card for Clay to come join them.
There was no one in sight, it was very surreptitious then.
All right, next meeting, 10/13, hopefully we'll have our architect on board
Yeah, I hope.
to meet them, and hopefully we can get at least an idea of what the impact from the bypass will be on hole 2 and 5.
Yeah.
And if we're not ready to do kind of a presentation at the October meeting for some reason, then I'll give folks an update on where we're at and try and share some preliminary stuff.
And we don't have a November meeting, isn't that correct?
We don't normally, but.
I think the
November or is it
board
December?
doesn't.
The board, I think,
Maybe it
combines the November and December meetings into doing one that kind of dodges the holidays. But I don't remember exactly when that is.
Okay.
What does this committee want to do about the holidays and stuff? Because you guys typically meet on the second Monday?
I think we better find out what we're doing, because I
What our
don't
new
honestly
mission is.
remember.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
So what our new mission is and what the architect's schedule is gonna be
Yeah.
to engage us. I think we need to know that, but I think we have enough stuff to think about it, to at least have the October meeting and kind of game plan that out, and you might know what the schedule is from there. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to come to a meeting and do nothing, and I totally agree,
Yeah.
but because of that downtime, we might be able to address some other things
You
outside
betcha.
of the clubhouse and third night.
Right. Yep.
Well, we delayed long enough for the rain to start. I don't know. Move to adjourn.
Would you like
All
to
right.
adjourn
Yes.
officially?
Use that
Is there
new
a
tool.
movement?
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Don't make a motion to adjourn. You just adjourn if you're a chair.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, everybody,
Good
and thanks, Joe.
information. Thank
You
you,
just,
Clay.
you were trying to deafen us anytime you made noise. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe, for hanging out.
That was, I've never heard it get quite